And then I'm going to share my screen too. Tell me that you can see this.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take a moment to talk about sugar because I think probably more than anything else, sugar is probably one of the largest culprits that we have in America. Um, and I think part of the issue is people aren't thinking that they're eating sugar when they're eating sugar, right? So many of us are thinking that we are eating healthy and that we're doing the right thing, when in fact, we're actually consuming a lot of sugar and not even thinking about it or realizing it. Actually, I mean, there are probably more, but there's about 56 different names that sugar goes by. So I wanted us to go through that list and talk a little bit about them because this stuff shows up in many of our foods and we're not thinking about it. So you mentioned earlier that your interest, like you like cheese, that's lactose, right? That's lactose. Then there's dextrose, there's fructose, there's galactose, glucose, maltose, sucrose, right? So these are considered to be simple sugars. We say they're either monosaccharides or disaccharides, right? So these are the things that we really need to try to, well, all of it really in excess, but these sugars are the ones that go through our system very quickly and actually spike up our blood sugar. Fructose is not bad because it's the ones that we get from fruit and juice. But the issue is when you have too much of that, right? You might even say, like, when people buy like one of those big half gallons of juice and they're like, I'm drinking juice, but really it's not fresh juice that you produced yourself. It's juice from concentrate. It is a fabricated juice. It's not fresh. And, they usually add other sugars to that. And that's what makes it pretty bad. I'm going to show you how to look and make sure that you have the right amount of sugar that you're getting serving wise every day. So these are just some common names that you might see on labels. So one of the things that I really want you to leave this conversation with is looking at your labels. All right. So, many of us are just kind of grabbing things when we're at the market. But if you take pause and you actually look at the labels and think about the servings, then this will make a huge difference in just how you select what you need to select for yourself. All right, so we just talked about those are like sort of common names, but then we also have solid or granulated sugars. All right, beet sugar. So think about foods that are super sweet, right? One of the things that they've done is they've actually manufactured and really sort of processed some of those fruits and vegetables to make sugar out of them because one, sugar is a commodity. People respond, they're looking for cheaper ways to produce sugar and give people different options so that you want to feel good. Oh, I'm using beet sugar, but it's still sugar. It's still doing the same thing in the body. Brown sugar, cane juice crystals, cane sugar, castor sugar, coconut sugar, confectioner sugar, corn syrup solids, crystalline fructose, date sugar, demerara sugar, dextrin, diastic malt, ethyl maltol. So these are all granulated kinds of sugar. And these are actually produced for, like, let's say, baked goods. You might see these in various drinks. So people might choose one version of sugar over the other because it comes down to cost, right? And so some of these are a little bit more boutique, like beet sugar is a little bit more boutique than, let's say, cane sugar, right? Or date sugar, that's a little bit more boutique. Coconut sugar, a little bit more boutique. So you might see a coconut sugar in something like a health and wellness product, but then, like, let's say you are eating cereal, you might just see corn syrup solids or something that says corn syrup in it. So it just kind of depends on, again, they're hiding sugar and they know that you've been programmed to think that certain kinds of sugar are bad. And so they use a different sugar name to make you feel better about the purchase. But at the end of the day, it's doing the same thing in the body. Okay. So we keep going. These are some other names for solid or granulated sugar. So Florida crystals, golden sugar, glucose corn syrup solids, grape sugar. And actually grapes are like super sweet. So if there's, as you look at this list, if there is a blood sugar challenge that you want to be mindful about the kinds of sugars that you select. Another thing to consider is that some sugars move in the body a little bit differently. So they still spiking the blood, but there's a rate at which it's spiking the blood, right? Some do it very fast and some slow. So we kind of like those better because it's not giving you a high and then a drop. The reason why we bring sugar into our diet to begin with is it produces energy. It gives us energy. So you might say, I'm feeling a little low, and then you go have a Snickers or you go have a juice that's sweet, and it gives you a rush. It gives you that energy. But then because it's flowing through the body very quickly, it'll also give you a crash. So that's why we have to be mindful about these. Maltodextrin, muscovado sugar, raw sugar, turbinado. Again, more boutique, right? If you think about, there's a product that I find at Kroger. It's a granulated sugar. It's considered brown sugar, and it's a turbinado. And you'll find this in more health and wellness products yet again. Raw sugars, but at the end of the day, it's sugar. All right, so the liquid sugars or the syrups, we also want to be mindful of. And now we're getting into like some of the products that we see out there in the marketplace, right? So like you have the agave nectar, you have barley malt, blackstrap molasses, which isn't as sweet, but is a sugar. And as you're seeing on this list, what's happening is they are um, basically pulling various products and extracting the sugars from those products. For example, rice, right? Rice, brown rice syrup. So rice in itself is a sugar. People don't think about that, but it's actually a sugar, right? Another one is corn, right? So you see high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup, right? High fructose corn syrup is a lot more manufactured than corn syrup, but once again, they're just all processed. And a lot of times with the high fructose corn syrup, they're coming from corn that has GMOs. That's one of the reasons why people are, tripping about those. GMOs are genetically modified organisms, and it's the way that they grow certain crops. They manipulate the genetics of the seed so that it won't maybe produce babies. You can't actually reproduce it. It does all sorts of things. So GMOs, we have to be mindful about foods that have GMOs. And if you think about this, where you have sort of these byproducts like this sugar, if the initial crop was a GMO, then the byproduct is also going to be a GMO as well. And so with high fructose corn syrup, that's one of those that, we know that most of the corn that's produced in America is GMO. And so this is a byproduct of that. It's going to be GMO. Honey, when we talked about fruit juice concentrate, right? The fruit juice concentrate and just fruit juice in general, right? Evaporated cane juice, all sugar. If you like cakes and cupcakes, butter sugar, buttercream, right? That's butter and sugar whipped together and it's nice and fluffy. The sugar is gone, but the flavor of that is impeccable. It's very addictive. It's very delicious. People love it. All right. We still going, right? We still going. Liquid or syrup sugars. This is the last on that list. Malt syrup, maple syrup, molasses, rice syrup, um, refiner syrup, sorghum. and treacle. Some of these I haven't even heard of. They're more popular in certain cultures than others, right? Based on what you've seen on this list, just fire off to me some of the sugars that you've come across, the different names of sugars that you've seen.
Um, I've seen um quite a few of them. I've never heard of the triacle.
Yeah, true.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard of refiner syrup before. Um, but most of those I've seen. I've let's see, invert sugar. I have not.
Mm-hmm.
Golden syrup. Um, let's see. Most of these here on this list, I've seen. Well, I'm very familiar with honey because I usually use that if
Yeah.
I'm sweetening my tea or something. But a lot of them I've seen like in on labels,
Yep.
but
Absolutely.
I didn't necessarily. Some of them I didn't necessarily know they were sugars.
Yes.
But
Yes.
some of them, most of them I do. I know it's some type of sweetener.
Yep.
So,
So
but
here's the thing, like when you're looking at a label, basically like you have your total carbohydrates on a label, and right underneath the total carbohydrates, it's going to tell you the total sugars. Okay. And so before we get into that, like some things that you need to be mindful of is that 68% of barcoded products sold in the US contain added sweeteners. So that's a huge supply of the foods that we consume, right? FDA requires all packaged foods and beverages display sugar content per serving, which is important. And recently, it basically now makes sure that uh, people who are producing products, they have to label their product if they have added sugar. All right. So it's different between, like, let's say you're selling something that's a fruit, right? Something that's mango in nature. But if you add sugar to that mango, you have to, by law, say that it has added sugar on the mango. Make sense? So here's some things that you probably want to do more. And this is just everybody. We just need to make this a practice. Is we need to read our food labels. All right. And one of the things that I want to be mindful of, to make it mindful to you, is that when you're looking at a food label, in many cases, it's multiple servings. Unless you get one little package of something, there's multiple servings. And the way you kind of overdo it with the sugar is not measuring what you're eating. So I think a perfect way that you can kind of overdo it with sugar is by pouring a bowl of cereal. Just pour it in the bowl, don't measure, and then if you add milk, and if the milk has sugar in it, then we don't often add the amount of sugar that we're getting from each of the items that we're putting in the bowl and consuming. So let's say you make cereal, you put milk, then you add raisins, then you add bananas. You've already gone over the amount of sugar that you need in that one bowl. So it's really important to not only read the labels, but then think about all the things that you're adding together to make one meal. And that really can put you over the top. And also, when you're looking at a food label, the things that have the most in that ingredient, it's listed from high to low. So if sugar is towards the beginning of the ingredient list, then that means that it has a lot of sugar as opposed to at the end. Does that make sense? All right, so I wanted to grab just an example because I always get on my husband about this. Are you familiar with these drinks, the naked drinks, the juices?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
Yeah, so my husband love these things. Love them, love them, love them, love them. Okay. Now, the American Heart Association recommends no more than 6 teaspoons, which is about 25 grams of added sugar a day for a woman. Okay. 9 teaspoons of added sugar for a man. That's about 36 grams. However, The average American gets about 22 teaspoons a day, or 88 grams. Okay. So now, to kind of take this point home, I just pulled up, I was like, let me look at, because I know the naked drinks are, it's like high in a lot of stuff. So when you actually look at this label, and unfortunately it's blurred, you can't really see it. It has grape puree, mango puree, it has carrot puree, it has all these different things. What did we see earlier on the food label? What was the actual sugar that this would fall in the category of? That's natural, but it's still sugar. You remember?
Uh, it's
Starts
gonna
with the
be
F.
fructose.
Fructose, right? Or and fruit juice, because it's a syrup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fruit juice.
Mm-hmm.
So you might drink something like this. It's like, it's healthy. It's fruit juice,
Yeah.
right? But again, it's just all about the quantity. So this is a product, Naked Juice Plus. And if you actually looked at the food label, the nutrition facts for this particular product, the total carbs is 55 grams in this one bottle. The total sugars, 44 grams. And the thing is, they say, and I'm not sure, I didn't look at the size, but they say that one serving is the entire bottle. Okay. Now, when you go to Whole Foods, this is a product that you would find at Whole Foods, which you associate with a healthy place, right? So again, all of these things, it's mindset. Even though you're in a place like Whole Foods, or you're in a health and wellness store, you still, people want to just make stuff taste good so that you can buy it again. And you don't want to fall for that. You want flavor to be balanced, not heightened. So if you can move in the direction of flavors being balanced and not heightened, and looking at your labels, and even if you bought this not drinking the entire thing, maybe a third of it or a part of it, and then diluting it with water, then now we bring our total sugars down significantly. You see what I'm saying? Like, for example, let's say you broke this up into fourths. Then how much sugar would you have if you broke this up into fourths? If you just drink 1/4 of it. Look at the total sugars.
Like 11 grams.
11 grams. That's way better, way, way better than
Yeah.
43. You see that? So just in the way you think about your food, you don't have to, I know you might be hungry, or, oh, you want something, you feel peckish. Don't drink the whole thing. Pour it out in another container and dilute it. Because there's really a few servings in this one bottle if you're managing yourself properly. Okay. All right. So here's some issues that sugar brings us, and there's more, but I just named a few. Definitely weight gain, because what happens is fat stores in the body as sugar, or really sugar stores in the body as fat, particularly if you're not burning that energy off. Remember, sugar is energy, it's our fuel. So we need it. We need it. But if we're not moving, if we're not active, then it just converts to fat in the body, and then it gets stored. Heart disease. All of these diseases kind of run together. Diabetes, that's the big one. Because here's what you're doing to your pancreas. Uh-oh, wait. Radium is coming on. Uh-oh. So what you're doing to the pancreas is you're saying, make more insulin, make more insulin, make more insulin. And then your body starts getting mad at you. It's like, why are you having me make more insulin, and I already have all this insulin in my body, right? That's what diabetes, so we're going to break down what diabetes is. It's called insulin resistance. So your body naturally produces insulin. Insulin is energy. So sugar comes into the body, it's energy, right? And then it creates insulin to take it through the body to do what it needs to do. But when we eat too much sugar, what happens is we overproduce insulin in the body. Okay. And so what's interesting about diabetes is when they tell you that you need to be on insulin, they're actually messing you up because they're actually giving you more insulin. You really need to dump the insulin that's in the body. So you need to reduce the amount of sugar that you're bringing into the body, and you can actually bring down your blood sugar levels that way. So that's why you'll find like some health and wellness folks who focus on one area of these things. They'll tell you do intermittent fasting. So diabetes or people who have diabetes, they do intermittent fasting. That way they're managing the amount of insulin because they're super sensitive to the sugar. They're managing the amount of insulin that's coming into the body by intermittent fasting. Because if you're not eating, you're not bringing sugar into the body, right? And they're mindful about the kinds of foods that they're eating. So for people who are insulin or blood sugar sensitive, I like to say, there's a list of foods that they really want to incorporate because it's going to help to keep their blood sugar levels on point. There are foods that they should not eat. So like the beet sugars, grapes, cherries, oh my goodness, bread, white flour, like bread, all of those things, you don't want to eat those things because it's just going to continue to spike you. So you intermittent fast, and then you manage the kinds of foods that you eat that's not going to spike you, and you can really sort of balance out your diabetes. I'm not sure about reversing it. It's all about balancing it and maintaining it where you don't have to get insulin shots. Exercising, drinking a lot of water, and just like really being mindful about the foods you're bringing in, all of that. Sugar, a lot of sugar actually raises your blood pressure, right? It just makes you like pant, like raises your heart rate, all of that. High cholesterol, right? Because actually, if you think about like fried foods, not only does it have a lot of grease, but it also has a lot of sugar. Why would I say that fried foods have a lot of sugar? Why do you think I would say that?
Maybe because of what it's like, I don't know, depending on what's fried, maybe the breading. I would think if it's something that's breaded,
Yep,
the flour
absolutely.
in it.
That's right. So the flour is, wheat and all of those things, that's a form of sugar. So now we roll the chicken, we roll the vegetables, we roll the potatoes and all that wonderful, crunchy, crusty amazingness, right? And then we deep fry it. Oh my goodness. Not only are we, raising our cholesterol, but then we're also spiking our blood sugars. Okay. The other harmful thing that sugar does to us is our sleep. So there are people who might get up in the middle of the night just to get something to eat because they're having like a sugar rush, right? They're like, "Oh my goodness, I need this." But here I want to say something about that. And that's really for the poor sleep and mood changes. Here's the deal. If I told you that you don't control your body, what would you feel about me saying that? So the thoughts that you have and the things that you desire food wise, in many cases that's not you wanting those things. Why would I say that?
I would say because a lot of times, even with TV and just things that we see, it has a like a subconscious effect on us, and it's like it's subliminal, and it's telling you that you want this or that, and then you end up going for it, even though, and you may not even know why. But that's what I would think
All
is
right,
because it
so
would be outside influence, subtle
all right,
outside
so
influence.
so so I think that's very true. What if I told you that it goes deeper than that? What if I told you that there's inside influences? What could I mean by that?
If
What could
there's
I mean?
what, I didn't hear you.
Instead of though, you're talking about outside influences, which is true. But I'm saying it's deeper than the outside influences. It's the inside influences. What could I mean by that?
Maybe emotional.
Okay, yep.
Um,
We're gonna go deeper than that.
okay.
All right. So
Those are
what
the
I'm
things that would come to mind first
so
for
all of
me.
those are amazing. But now what I want you to think about is your gut.
Hmm.
What I want you
Oh,
to think
like
about is your microbiome. Do you know what your microbiome is?
is that like the healthy um bacteria
Not
in
just
your gut?
healthy, but the unhealthy stuff. So basically, you have a whole ecosystem in your body. So your body has cells and organs and all of these things, but the big thing that kind of governs you and your gut, your immunity, is your microbiome. That is your immune system. And your
Okay.
immune system is comprised of good bacteria and bad bacteria. It's an ecosystem that's in balance. So when you get things like yeast infections, that means that that ecosystem is out of equilibrium. And really, what a yeast infection is, you're bringing too much sugar into the body, and your bad bacteria is like, yeah, let's go. So they're just eating that stuff up. Now, the way it goes deeper is they start to influence the things that you want to eat. So you think that you want to eat bread, but it's really the bacteria wanting to feed on that thing. And it gives you the signal bread, fries, cheese, pizza, because it needs to get satisfied so that it can continue to proliferate in the body, right? Those things impact your mood, those things impact your sleep, those impact just really your reproductive health, all of that. Too much sugar, they call it candida in the system. And so when people are doing cleanses like this one, the other reason why we do that palate reset is to help to bring back to balance the microbiome, right? The gut, so that there's not too much of the guys who don't need to be there. The good guys gotta kind of get them back under wraps. They gotta get them back in their little cage. They're good, we need them, but we don't need too many of them. Okay. This is also connected to people who have ADHD. So, and I mean, if you think about kids who are distracted or are hyper, we're like, did they have sugar today? Right? That extra energy, with young people, it really can throw them off and really mess with their attention. Liver disease. So, our liver is basically our biggest uh, filter, filtration system in the body, right? So our liver is our guardian angel. Our liver helps us with so much, and we don't really talk about the liver. But when we eat a lot of things that have sugar, i.e., alcohol, right? That's a hidden sugar. Then we're actually destroying our liver over time. So you'll find that people who've been alcoholics for a very, very long time, they can develop liver disease, particularly if they're dealing with like high, like alcohol that's like high, or liquor that's high in alcohol content, they can develop liver disease because they're not detoxing the liver, right? They just keep pushing those toxins into the liver. After a while, it can't function properly. And then, of course, cavities, right? So if you're drinking and eating a lot of these foods and you're not rinsing, you're not drinking a lot of water, you're not brushing, you're not flossing, you're going to develop cavities over time. And I mean, these are just a few of the things that could happen with eating sugar. All right, so let me stop share. So, what do you think about that? Like, what are some of your takeaways from that in your own
It's
journey? Like things that you were thinking about as you saw some of those.
it's definitely uh motivates me to want to eat more live foods and stay away from I always hear about not eating a lot of processed foods, but now seeing how there's so many other ways that sugar is hidden in those processed foods, it's no wonder you have issues with um diabetes or obesity.
Mhm.
um I don't, every time I go to the doctor, I go every year to get checked and everything, but I don't have issues as of now with that. It's close, but now seeing this,
Hmm.
it I can see how I can better avoid even being borderline.
Yeah. And really, I would say also just cleansing regularly,
Yeah.
just taking the time to just kind of the discipline to kind of clean up what you're eating, even if you like did a cleanse for 7 days out of the month.
Yeah.
You're helping to reset the body, no excess or no processed sugar. You drink your water, you drink your teas, you be
Hmm.
mindful about, not eating packaged foods, lots of greens. Just doing that and bringing that into the system can tremendously help you with a reset monthly. And that's not
Yes.
like a deep detox, but it's just maintenance. So you, not saying that you go and you eat crazy for the other 3 weeks, but it just helps you to develop discipline. One of the things that we talked about in the call on Sunday, if you haven't taken a look at that video, it's really good. We talked about discipline and how to develop discipline, because really that's been one of the challenges that people have with eating healthy. They don't
Hmm.
have discipline. And one of the ways that we talked about developing discipline is by having a spiritual practice of meditation at the minimum. So we're not talking about praying and going to church, but just taking a moment where you're being reflective and thankful and showing gratitude about what you're doing in your life and what you're eating, what's working for you, what's not working for you. Just in that space of being reflective constantly and just setting aside time to do it helps you to really become present to what's going on your plate and your self care.
Hmm.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
one of the things that I didn't mention that I should have put on that list is inflammation, which is huge. So, let me kind of share with you this a testimony. So, I actually hurt my ankle some time ago, um, and hurt it again, the same ankle. So, finally got to the orthopedic doctor, and the doctor said, "Oh, you have a slight fracture in your ankle." I was like, "What?" They couldn't even see it. He's like, "It looks fine," but then he said, "Let me look over here. Oh, you have a fracture, and it's not healing." I said, "Well, because I probably messed it up again when I hurt myself again." As a result of that, what was happening was my knee started to swell. And this happens typical when you don't get, one of the things I learned is when you get an injury, a foot injury, you want to go to the doctor right away. Don't wait on it, because what you start doing is overcompensating. You start walking different, and then by walking different, subtly, you're impacting other things in the body. So by doing that, I started impacting my knee. So the knee swelled up, and I had all this inflammation in my knee. I was like, oh my God, what is going on here? Yo, since this reset, because I haven't been eating any bread, no rice, just greens, the inflammation is down. Celery juice every day, inflammation is down, because that's what the greens are going to do. It's going to give you, it's like an anti-inflammatory, and then turmeric and all of that. And so it still has a little sore, just a little bit, but I was able to bend my leg back over the last couple of days, bend it back. I haven't been able to do that in a while. I was like, oh my gosh. So the sugar that's in the rice, that's in the bread, that's in these added foods is giving you inflammation. Inflammation in the joints is arthritis. Okay. So when people are like, oh my God, achy joints, you got inflammation. And more than likely, it's connected to your diet. Your diet has foods in there that's inflaming you and you don't realize it. So let's back up. Let's pull away the things that we know have create inflammation, and then let's see what happens. And sure enough, my knee is like, it's crazy. It's the inflammation is down. I'm like, wow.
This is
So
very eye-opening.
yeah, absolutely. So I think all of this is knowledge. All of it is just learning. And now I'm like, wait a minute. I don't need to have that because I know that it doesn't serve me well. I don't need it. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to have bread, but I need to now choose a bread that's going to serve me well. And the one that serves me well is the one that doesn't have weed and all this other stuff in it. It's a live or a living food. It's a live bread called like Ezekiel bread. You might have
Oh,
seen.
yeah.
So it's just sprouted grains. It's like good stuff. So you can have a piece of that every now and then, but you don't want to overindulge.
Mm-hmm.
Again, discipline, discipline, discipline. So um, I'm learning too, and I'm realizing what my triggers are. And we all need to be mindful about what our triggers are. The other thing that I wanted to say is, sugar is usually connected, you said it best, emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So if there is a feeling of lack of love, then oftentimes we'll go for something that's sweet to help us to feel love, right? Chocolate, what's some of those other comforting things? Ice cream,
Yeah.
cakes, cupcakes. And when at the end of it all, that craving is there's a feeling of not being loved on some level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're using that craving to get that thing that's missing from your life. Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Definitely.
mindfulness and the awareness of what's happening is super important because then now you're in a better position to make an informed decision. And then I think like even creating a relationship with your food. Okay, why am I eating this cupcake again? Why am I doing this? No, I'm serious. Let me
Yeah.
share with you how this rolls out for me. Let me share with you how this rolls out for me. I love me some ice cream. Oh my gosh. Love ice cream. At night, after dinner, around 8, 9 o'clock, I want me some ice cream. Love it. Okay. And I don't have blood sugar issues or any of those things. But then I started asking myself, I was like, you're not supposed to be eating this stuff late at night. It doesn't serve you well because then you're going to be up, you can go to sleep. So I've had enough experience of seeing what the effects are of consuming this thing. Vegan ice cream, right? Vegan. So it's healthy. Still got sugar, right? I've seen what the effects are of me choosing this thing. And I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that effect anymore. It's just like drinking water late at night. After a certain time, I shut it down because I don't want the effects of what happens when I'm drinking water at 11 o'clock at night. I have to get up and go to the bathroom. That means my sleep is compromised. So you gotta at some point decide that whatever effects that's not good is happening to you, you gotta talk to yourself like, what am I doing? Do I want this effect or not? If you want that effect and that effect isn't good for you, then you gotta interrogate yourself. Like, why am I hurting myself? Why am I doing that? And someone said, actually, she said it, Dr. Sharita said it, the biggest enemy is your inner me. I was like, whoa, that's powerful. She said the biggest enemy or your worst enemy is your inner me. So you know that those effects are not good, but you still go ahead and you convince yourself. Again, that's that microbiome, the bacteria, the gut. They're like, you want it. Come on, let's go. Let's go. It's not you talking, it's them. It's that. You don't need it. And so working on that discipline and really being in like present to what's happening, and then you literally can free yourself of those things. But it's an ongoing practice of being mindful. Absolute practice of being mindful. What you think?
It's very eye-opening because now, anytime I get any kind of information like this, because I think the key to changing behavior is seeing the connection and seeing the deeper the deeper driving motive behind why you're doing what you're doing. I
Hmm.
think when you understand that, you can make a change and be able to stick with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, it's not something that, okay, I'm gonna just do this. Okay, after this week, then I can go back and do, you know what I'm saying? But once
Yeah.
you get that, yeah. Because when you were talking about the emotions, that's me. My mom and my grandmother used to could always tell what was going on with me emotionally because I would put on weight because I would be eating. And
Hmm.
so they would be like, "Well, what's going on? What you upset about?" Because, and then they'll know when I'm happy because, I'm thinner.
Hmm.
So, and it's still true to this day. I mean, and even though, like I said, I eat mostly plant based, you still can, there's still hidden sugars and hidden stuff in there that can cause triggers, inflammation. Because I know I have some issues with inflammation because I have issues with arthritis and like the tendons in my, especially in my wrist
Hmm.
here.
Yeah.
So now listening to what you said, I'm starting to understand that it's what's going on in my wrist is probably definitely food related.
Oh yeah. It's inflammation. It's you're eating foods that are inflaming you for sure.
Yes.
And when you start pulling those things out, you're gonna see a huge difference in swelling and joint pain and all of those things. It's just gonna start to subside, along with
Yes.
adding in things like the cod liver oil capsules or the omega-3 fatty acids. It helps to lubricate your joints.
Okay.
Yeah.
I I do try to take some supplements. I hadn't been taking those.
Hmm.
Um do you do just a question, do you think it's important to take like a probiotic
Absolutely.
on a regular basis?
Absolutely. Every day.
Okay.
Every
That's
day.
one of the things I take. So I was just I was just
Yeah, so
making
like
sure.
that's good for gut health. Again,
Yeah.
it's helping to keep that the gut in check so that when the food's coming down the digestive system, it's doing what it's supposed to do. You're able
Okay.
to get those. Well, so there's a couple things, right? There's enzymes, and some people aren't getting enough enzymes in their foods because they're not eating enough live food. So over this, this reset, if you're eating the live food, you're getting enzymes.
Yeah.
Enzymes are important because we need to access the nutrients in our food, and enzymes allow us to do that. Okay. So there's a digestive process, which is what the probiotics are going to support us with. It's going to help to keep our gut balanced. And then when the food comes in, we want to be able to pull out the nutrients from the food. That's what the enzymes do. All right. And so if you're doing those things readily, like ongoing, i.e., you're using an enzyme when you eat, or you're eating enough live food that has enzymes in it. Things like veggie krauts, things like a lot of leafy greens, right?
Hmm.
A lot of fermented things have a lot of enzymes that are super good for you. Yogurts, things like that. You're gonna get, and not too sweet. The ones that are like plain,
Uh-huh.
right? That's what you need to keep the gut balanced. So that would be wonderful to have daily. And everything depends on what your doctor says. So you always want to go back and check on your doctor. But
Yeah.
in this sort of day and age that we're in, you should really be thinking about immune system support,
Hmm.
right? And so when you eat a lot of sugar too, it really compromises your immune system as well, right?
Hmm.
And so we want to make sure that we're always being mindful and on top of the foods that are going to support the immune system. And so the things that have a lot of antioxidants in them, super good. The things that have a lot of chlorophyll in them, super good. Zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, the B complex vitamins, right? Moss, like if you did sea moss gel, that would be something wonderful, right? um, Sea vegetables because they have the trace minerals.
Hmm.
Again, you want to feed your body intentionally so that, whatever it is that you're trying to heal from or be intentional about, you're choosing foods that's going to support you in that way. And I think when you start thinking about food in that way, it's like, I don't want that Snicker. I don't want
Yeah,
that other stuff. Like you feel good when you're eating to live and not living to eat, like for
yeah.
real. It's so powerful. And when I drink a lot of water and I'm just hydrated, it's like, whoa, I feel alive, and I know when I'm underhydrated because I'm a little lethargic. So it's like a signal because again, the effects, what we talked about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
I know the effects of being underhydrated. So I'm like, I gotta get my water in. I gotta get my water in. So
Yeah.
it forces me to do the work to get what I need to get done. And we all have work to do, but it's like I know the difference. I know the difference. And really that's what we're working towards, the awareness of the difference and choosing the things that make you thrive and give you life versus the things that lower your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
That's ultimately, what the choice is. High frequency or not.
True, true. I've come a long way from where I used to be. So I still, still have work to do, but thankfully I'm not as bad off as I could be had I stayed on the same food path and habits that I had before. So um I don't have to make a lot of doctor's visits, even though I don't get sick very often because like you said, I'm very focused on building my immune system. And I have my own garden, so I grow a lot of my herbs and vegetables. I pretty much got almost the whole produce section in my yard.
That's
So
beautiful. That's so beautiful.
I eat, pretty much from the garden as much as possible.
That's incredible. So you
So
on the
yeah.
right path. You doing your thing.
Yeah, I just needs a little tweaking here and there because I can veer off, because like I
Very bad.
said, I
Hmm.
um, you know, I used to have a love affair with bread, but not as bad as I used to.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten away. I used to couldn't eat a meal without bread,
Hmm.
but I've really gotten away from it. Um,
Yeah.
it just thinking back, just a lot of the food habits I had, I really I don't have the desire. And once you, like I said, once you start seeing that, understanding the connection, it takes away that desire of just wanting it
Yeah.
because you understand what it's going to do and the connection and how it's going to affect you.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
you don't want it,
Yeah.
like you
Yeah.
said.
You don't want it. It's that effect.
Yeah.
That effect. Yeah. Okay. Well, I just wanted to jump on here and talk a little bit about sugar so that there's this awareness around sugar that we all have. If, hopefully you got something new from this, and it will help you to make more informed decisions about the foods that you choose. You're looking at those labels more and really being mindful about servings too, because you said there's usually multiple servings in your foods. So not being quick to just eat the whole thing, but being strategic. Oh, let me just have a little bit of this. Let me have a portion of it. And looking at those labels so you're not overdoing or you're getting as close to without going over those daily amounts of sugar into the system. Because then all of those things, in terms of a reset or just being able to taste your food, you're not overstimulating yourself. You'll know, oh, this is sweet. Oh my goodness, this is a lot. When you start getting to the habit of diluting your food, diluting your beverages, you'll know. See, a lot of times people don't know that it's super sweet because they just so used to drinking the whole thing. A big old, like, what is that? 7-Eleven. What is
Uh-huh.
that big old thing?
Big gulp or
A
something like
big
that.
gulp. That thing's huge. People drink that whole thing. You know how much sugar's in that?
Ooh.
Probably sugar for like a month. Like a month. A month worth of sugar in one drink. Crazy.
Oh
So
my
we just
God.
want to be real mindful about what we're doing, how we're serving ourselves, what we are setting intentions for, and how we're treating ourselves so that we can continue to thrive.